Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah. It's hump day, right? Yeah, it's Wednesday. We're almost there. Two more days. Let me turn this up. This is almost on mute. There we go. Oh, there we are. Yes. You have to find that sweet spot. All right, so it's Wednesday night and you're watching the Doc Force with me. Guess who I am? And the other night I wasn't able to do a show last night because doing construction on the ship, and so that kind of took priority. And the day before, we talked about the distraction heard around the world at the Oscars, and did a little play-by-play of that, and even got some interference. So hopefully we won't have any tonight. If so, bear with me. For some reason, it likes to turn me off for some reason and leave the guest on. So if it happens again tonight, hang tight. What else? Oh boy, like I said, 2 more days. Working on the repairs here on the ship have taken its toll, you might say. But tonight, I wanted to talk about how these distractions seem to, like I mentioned the other night, they seem to come in waves. Like every 2 weeks, maybe to a month, media will turn to something else and they'll focus on that. So we completely forgot what happened last week. When you think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, not only we are erasing history, but we're already being trained to have short-term memory. Just boom, it's gone. We forget. Luckily we can archive stuff. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about Australia, and I have not been there yet. I'm just really excited to go one day. I wanted to go to university in Sydney when I was in high school. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I love Australia, and I got some good friends there. And one of them is my friend Dave Dennis. He's an author, and lately he's been on board I don't know. I don't want to say. Well, just listen to what he has to say. There's a lot of stuff going on that we have, we're not looking at anymore. It's way off in the peripheral. So let's get that back into sight. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dennis from Australia. How are you, sir?
Hi, Doc. I'm good. And you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I know. Can you believe it? I know it's not Dr. Pepper, but this is. Sorry. Most people would be like, what is he? He's not drinking Dr. Pepper. So, Dave, for those that don't know, can you give a little background to who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm originally from the UK. I was born in a little town called Southend-on-Sea in Essex, which is probably about 70 miles from London, east of London, down the Thames estuary. I went to a secondary modern school there, all-boys school. And I stayed on till I was 18. I did A-levels in history, including American history, government politics, including American government politics, and English literature, believe it or not. I was always good at writing. I always used to like writing stories, and if we were given a exercise, a comprehension to do, I'd write 20 pages as opposed to everyone else's 2 pages. It was one of the few things that I really loved doing, and I was always interested in science and science fiction, although I wasn't that good at science. Anyway, by the time I finished high school, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew one day I'd like to be an author, but I had no idea how to do it. So I ended up, one of my friends said, I've got a job in a bank. He says, why don't you apply for a bank and at least get a job? And that way you've got some income. So I thought, yeah, good idea. So I rode up to the big 4 banks, and I got accepted for an interview with National Westminster Bank. That's the biggest bank in England. Wow. And I went along for an interview, and they looked at my maths results and said, "Oh, I'm not very good, not very good. I got a low grade." And they said, "Oh, normally you've got to get a good grade in maths to get in the bank." But he said, he goes, "I like you." He goes, "I see you doing A levels." He goes, "Look, you've applied a little bit late to get in Southend, so how about I send up your papers to London? We'll see if they're interested in you, and and if you get the job, you'll hear from them." So 3 weeks later, I got a letter come through, said, "Oh, you've been accepted for a job in National Westminster Bank International Division." So I thought, "Oh, very good." So I started off in, you could call it Deep State Central, up in 52 Threadneedle Street. So that was right in the heart of the city of London. And I went up there having no idea what I was going to be doing. But I, believe it or not, I actually got on quite well. I worked there for 11 years all up, from 1978 through 1979. I got promoted and up to assistant manager level. I got transferred to Red Hill in Surrey. It's an international banking centre. So basically worked there for 4 years. And then one day, I think it was in 1987, I went for my first holiday outside of Europe. I went to Florida, believe it or not. And it was the first holiday I'd ever been to where I didn't want to come home. When I go to Europe, because English isn't their first language, I can't wait to get back home to England. I went to Florida and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Had a great time. Come back and actually went there with a German friend, actually. So we had a great time. Came back and I said, "Well, I've got to go back to America." I said, "I love those Americans." I said, "I'm going back to Hawaii next time." So I went to Hawaii. This was in 1988. So I think it's October 88. And it was just incredible. I can't describe it. I actually met a girl from Australia out there, believe it or not. We kept in touch. She came to Australia. We got engaged, and then she said, "Well, look, I don't really want to live out here. I've got a big family in Australia. Why don't you come and live in Australia?" And I thought, yeah, okay, all right. I had a house. I was paying off a mortgage, and I had a good job with very good prospects. But I thought, no, I'm going to do it. So I just resigned. So I sold it. It took a year to sell the house. I did it on an increasing market where the mortgage rates were going crazy. But I did sell it. I came out. I spent some time with her, applied for residency while I was out there. Things didn't work out. She was happy to send me back after 2 years back to the UK. So I said, all right, I'll go back to the UK, catch up with my friends and family, but then I'm going to travel around. So I came to Sydney. I was living in Adelaide for 2 years. Came to Sydney, landed a job. I couldn't believe it. I just walked into an agency and they said, "Look, we're desperately looking for someone for export documentation experience in one of our local businesses in Botany. They export leather. Would you be interested?" So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. I went along there. I didn't even really want the job. I was on my way to Queensland and I wanted to go back to the UK. They offered me a job. The job's an export manager. So I worked there for 4 years. And then, I met my second Australian partner. We had a child and I've been living here ever since. But basically, my whole career, it was all to do with finance. I was working in exports, international banking, underwriter, even insurance claims manager. Never really liked it, but I was quite good at what I did. I always seemed to get on well in the companies I worked for. But then I really wanted to be an author, so I started writing a book. And then I came into a little bit of money. I'd paid the mortgage off by now, and I'd had enough. I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I left. I walked out of my last job when my mum got sick in England, and then I never went back. I never went back to that finance world. Came back, finished off the novel, and published it. And it did all right.
And now you're getting involved with I don't want to say the word revolution, but things that are going on where people are standing up. And Australia, you're saying that You're seeing the protests and things that are going on. Well, let's go into things like that, because you guys, I don't know if you just saw yesterday, BBC. Let me pull it up real quick so you can see it. BBC, this is a story. China gains a foothold in Australia's backyard. Something about the Solomon Islands and potentially established a naval base there. Is that near you?
So no. That's much further up. That's would it be off Queensland, Solomon Islands? That's in Pacific.
Yeah. So I mean, you're living there. What is it that you are seeing? I don't want to pull up any reports, because these are people, usually people that are over here that are writing a story as if they're there and they're not. You're there. Let me get rid of this and tell me what's been going on for the past year in your eyes.
Right. Well, I think actually it all started after I went to, in 2019. We'll just quickly go through that. I went to California. I was there in California. I went to Dimensions of Disclosure. Ben and Rob from Edge of Wonder, they're friends of mine, so they were hosting it. Went out there, and I knew something was about to happen. I mean, I knew it, and I knew I had to go. It cost me a lot of money that holiday. I spent 3 weeks out there. But I remember saying to friends at the time, I just sense something big's about to happen. I said, I may not even get back. So I said, don't be surprised if I get stuck out there. Anyway, I didn't get stuck out there. I did have a good time, and 3 days at Dimensions of Disclosure. Then I went to San Diego, which is a place I've always wanted to visit. I loved it. 3 weeks in San Diego. Came back. Now, I got back. And from the moment I got back, we've been in crisis, right? And it hasn't stopped. So I got back. First of all, we had the droughts. It was dry as a bone. The next thing, we had those terrible bushfires. You probably remember the bushfires.
Yeah.
And that happened within a month of me getting back. And I've never seen anything like it. Mm-hmm. We can save discussion for that for the next session, but I don't think those bushfires were completely natural.
We will. We can talk about that on the Patreon.
We'll talk about. Yeah, we will. And well, basically, as soon as that happened, then I remember Ben and Rob and a few other guys, John Vivanco and James from Isetti Ranch. They all came over. That was for Disclosure Down Under. And they came to Sydney, so I caught up with all them. That was great. And the bushfires were still raging at the time.
Right.
Yeah, they went. And then within 2 months of them being here, then the dreaded C, condition hit us. So that hit us. And then, I personally got quarantined. I was in one of my local clubs. So I got quarantined for 14 days because I happened to be there at the same time as somebody who was positive. That wasn't a nice experience. But I think for me, it was a wake-up experience. I was never healthier. I was absolutely healthy. And it was sunny outside. And I was stuck in my apartment. I was allowed on my balcony. I couldn't even go in our shared back garden, and they're very strict, big fines if you don't follow their protocols. And then since then, it's been, the whole pandemic has been ongoing ever since. We've had lockdowns. We've had all sorts of things happening. We've had the treatment that was given to us. And then recently, things began to open up. So it was really bad until a couple of months ago. And then suddenly they started to take away some of the mandates, the Q coding, the masks. They've all but gone, apart from public transport and certain sensitive places like doctors' waiting rooms, hospitals, places like that. But you can now go into your local supermarket. You don't have to check in. You don't have to wear a mask in there. And for all intents and purposes, everything's gone back to normal. But the crisis continues. So for the last 6 weeks, we've had floods rain, incessant rain, high winds. Even my building, we had the guttering on the south side of the building was just ripped off. We've had floods throughout the whole of the eastern seaboard. So eastern seaboard is from Victoria down south from us, then New South Wales, and then Queensland is the state above us. So those three states have been absolutely hammered. I think Tasmania, which is down south, from what I hear, they got away with a lot of it. So it's just the east, and South Australia, Western Australia, they seem to be okay. So it's just us. But interestingly enough, we've got Canberra. Canberra's our capital city, and at the moment, even this week, they've had protests down in Canberra. We've had protests in. It's all about the mandates, right? So protests in all the main capital cities of each state, and it seems to be just before every weekend we seem to get a massive downpour of rain. So yeah, whether this again, we'll talk about this later, but whether it's a natural event,
yeah,
yeah,
we'll talk about things that we don't talk about here over on the Patreon page. If you haven't head over there, you can. It's patreon.com/Doc Skinner. Become a member, get to see the good stuff. Let's see. Real quick, let's do our roll call because I should have done that first. I wasn't thinking. Paul's here, and Renee. We got to start off with Renee. What's up, Renee? And then Paul's here. He says hello. Let's see. Sean Phillips is here. Hello, sir. Terry's here. Hello, dear. They're saying hello to each other. Aha. Jeff Strudwick says, good day from down under. Talking Dave. So happy to have you. Amazing Dave D on. Yes. Renee says, never been to Aussie, but was born in Philippines. I live in San Fran. Very cool. Hopefully we'll have an event that we can all get together. Finally, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Terry says hello. Renee says something about lots of UFO sightings in Australia. We could even dabble in that. Let's see. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. Who am I forgetting? Mr. B's here. He's from Australia as well. Alien Bump 72. Evening. How are you? Missy Walker. Hello. Welcome. And Alien says Jay's in the house. So, all right. So yeah, if you want to hear some of the nitty gritty, this is more of an introduction show to my guests, and then you come over to Patreon and we let loose. So patreon.com/Doc Skinner. All right, now how I really, we have to tap dance because these are sensitive topics. So we have to be careful. That's why we do the Patreon thing later. But there's so many things I want to ask, like this. How can I say? Trying to come in around Australia. Is that a scary thing, or do they just hype it up as it's a scary thing in media?
So, what are we talking about? We're talking about
like this article I mentioned earlier. I'll just read it real quick. The leaked draft signaled that China could deploy troops to the Solomon Islands and potentially establish a naval base there. Nowhere was more alarmed than the Solomon's neighbors to the south, Australia, the bedrock regional partner of the AUKUS Alliance. Did I say that right? AUKUS. A new security pact in the Pacific Ocean with the U.S. and the U.K. The details of this deal are still uncertain, but even if it's smaller than the feared military base, it would be China's first foothold in the Pacific, says Professor Alan Gingle from the Australian Institute of International Affairs. The Solomon Islands and Australia have been interlinked since World War II. Australia has been the island's largest aid donor, development partner, and until now, the sole security partner. Australia's government was rocked and likely blindsided by the move, and analysts say, not that they'd been warned, 5 years ago, Canberra, that's what you were just saying, your capital?
Yeah.
Okay. Canberra sensed that China was encroaching in its backyard, on its backyard, with Solomon internal politics at this time also driving up Chinese loans and economic investment. That prompted Canberra to push back with step up policy, where refocused attention on the Pacific family and ramped up its own aid flow. So is that's not near you, is it?
No, well, the Solomon Islands, there, if you go up to Queensland, they're in the Pacific, off of Queensland. So, but
Mhm.
it's near enough to be a concern for the whole of Australia. The
Right.
idea of having a Chinese base there is scary. They already own, they've been leased one of our ports. They've got a 99-year lease on our port of Darwin. Apparently,
Mhm.
our own Navy aren't allowed in there.
Yeah. No,
They're not
I
allowed in there.
actually I came across that story today. I think it was about them taking over the port, and they've been doing some of that for a while now here in the States. Some of the biggest owners of farmland and
Yeah,
other there's just even talk of how they're getting farmland. They're taking topsoil and they're putting it in crates, metal box containers, and shipping it overseas. To I mean, it's a crazy thing, man. It's some really wild and wacky shit.
yeah,
But
sure is.
that was a really bad Johnny Carson. But it is scary. I was speaking with someone today that even though there's so many of us, I think that's what it is. There's so many people now on the planet. It's enough to kind of dilute our reaction to things. Um, we get also easily distracted. As I mentioned the other night, it's like almost every 2 weeks to a month, there's a whole new distraction that just we are forced to focus on. If you watch mainstream media and all that, they just pound you with it until we start figuring it out, like certain computer appliances or computer pieces that belong to certain people, coming out and them freaking out. So what do? We go on to something else. Now, I mentioned in my show the other night that um, I feel that what happened at the award ceremony was legitimate. But I think Will realized while he was laughing with the entire world at this joke, his wife was not. And he then, you know, backpedaled, thinking, what should I do to recuperate from this? And he did what he did. And I'm sure he completely regrets it now. But that was legit. And I think everybody took advantage of it and ran with it. Oh, it's a conspiracy to get them more views next year, blah, 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 blah. And that's what my goal this year is to try to bring light to stuff, but then also point out what it also could be. It's not always something nefarious. Like this was just a man that realized, oh, I was in on a joke on my wife, and that's not smart. So, um, and I think that's what happened with Australia. It's still there. I mean, it's in the news, but it's not focused on like it was, what, 2, 3 months ago, especially during the fires. They would focus on it then. But anyway, go on. I'm hijacking. Your turn.
Well, there's a lot I could say. At the moment, I mean, one of the big things here, we've got a federal election coming up in May, and then we've got winter starts in June. So the big fear for some people is that everything's going to be great up to May. In fact, we've just had our federal government, which is a conservative government, just to confuse people. They're called the Liberal, it's a Liberal coalition, but they're actually conservatives. Labor are far more left wing than them, but I believe that they're both two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, with this election coming up, everything's been eased up, and things are almost back to normal. But what's going to happen once the election's over, I've no idea. Our government at the moment, they're not particularly popular. Our Prime Minister isn't particularly popular. Our state premiers, they're like your governors. They're not particularly popular either. They are in certain quarters, but generally there's a lot of people against them. So I think they're smoothing everything over, get the election out of the way. And then the main fear is we've got winter coming on. So what people are thinking is, we've got in China at the moment, they're saying the sea is being talked up very much there. So is it all going to come back in June, July, August, which are our winter months? Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Could it be that we're being duped? That's the question. And one thing that they've just done, our federal government have just had a budget, and they've given us a lot of sweeteners as well. So a lot of short-term sweeteners, money coming back to people. Is that all part of the show?
I don't know. They just started announcing today that the dude that got the cool job here in the States, he got his second little. So does that mean they're gonna try to keep promoting it all over again, start it up again? I don't know. I just think it's funny how people can't realize, all right, we all of a sudden had the fix for it before we even knew what it could do. And now all the stuff that we've been harping and screaming at the top of our lungs about is now come out. One of the top dog companies, supposedly came out. They were like, yeah, it's not good stuff. And now their shares are private. They're not public anymore. And there's so much to it, man. And isn't it funny how certain doctors haven't been really mentioned all of a sudden, almost overnight? You don't hear much about them anymore. Yeah, I think they realized that the scene or that act in the play was over, and trying to move on to other things. But that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to bring the issues back to you guys, because so you said everything's looking a little more normal now, though.
Well, apart from the heavy rain, we've had the heavy rain and we've had flooding and winds for 6 weeks. Now that's not normal. I've been here since 1989, and I have seen when we've had a cyclone up north in Queensland, we've got 3 or 4 days of heavy rain like we've had, but never 6 weeks. I mean, it's not every day. It's on and off. Like I actually went out. I had a walk yesterday. I sat down in the sun, managed to get some sun. But this morning I woke up, it's smashing down with rain. I think it's just eased off a little bit now. I can see a bit of sunshine out there. So it's not all the time, but it has been on and off nearly every day for 6 weeks. The flooding has been really bad. I mean,
that's actually I was going to bring it up, but you brought up all my news stories. I finally had tabs like a professional news person, all ready to go, and then you're like, got them all. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Well, check out Lismore. Lismore got absolutely smashed twice.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at actually this one's thousands of Australians flee homes as floods inundate. It's a big word. Towns in Sydney. So heavy rains deluged Australia's east coast on Wednesday, submerging entire towns, while thousands of people fled their homes for a second time within weeks after fast-moving floodwaters burst river banks and broke over levees. And there's more to it. Oh, wait, I should have done this so everybody saw what I was reading. So there it is, by Renju Jose, who wrote that. I'll let you read that while we talk about it. So this is near you. This is Sydney, right?
Yeah. Where's this? Is that Byron Bay? Byron Bay, is it? Yeah, I think it's Byron Bay. It says another resident of Byron Bay said he'd never seen so much rain. If that's Byron Bay, that's in New South Wales, but it's up north.
Yeah.
So not up north of New South Wales, they're the ones that are they're getting hit really hard up there.
Yeah. That actually, I'm from Texas, and we get that stuff yearly. Because it does. It's just it's getting worse and worse. The flooding is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
The photo you've got is Lismore, and that's up northern New South Wales as well.
Okay.
So Lismore, this is the second time it's happened. They've been completely inundated. People have lost their homes. People are homeless up there. They're now getting hit for a second time. So my heart goes out to the people up that way. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
it bad here, but not as bad as that.
That's just horrible. Let me turn this off and mute that out. The other thing, well, okay. This was actually news. This is actually news right here. Mysterious creature with claws washes up on Australian beach, shocks internet. Okay. I want your opinion, Dave, because you live there. I'm going to say, let's see if it'll let me zoom in on it. No, this guy did a video of it. Let me show you. I don't want to do all that. Just play. Yeah. Well, he videotapes it. But what I'm thinking, what it looks like to me, could that be a kangaroo that drowned?
It does look like some sort of marsupial.
I mean, if you look at the hands and everything, I mean, it's bloated, of course, but the long tail, really thick, and they're kind of. It's a strange creature from another planet, and I'm like, thinking it's a drowned kangaroo. You know,
I got my kangaroo on there.
Well, bloated, and anyway. So that was another story. I really want to get into the good stuff with you, but we can't do that till an hour from now on the Patreon.
And that will get good. That will get pretty good. I've got a lot to say.
Yeah, and I would love to hear it.
What I will say for here, Doc, what I will say for here is I think a lot of what's happening at the moment, including the weather and everything, is a distraction from some of the stuff that's really going on. And that's what I'd like to talk about later on.
Okay.
We'd probably get in big trouble if we started talking about it here.
Yeah. I'm walking a thin line, so that's why I got the new site. Let's see.
Well, I've been with you through thick and thin, and I've seen you've been taken down before, and don't want to go through that again.
Oh yeah, that was not some fun stuff. Jeff is also, he says, from Australia, says it's not a kangaroo. So I was just guessing. I wasn't saying for sure it was. That's why I wanted to ask.
No, I don't think it is,
because I'm all about aliens and UFOs and all the conspiracy, but I've been proven wrong, and then it ends up, I'm like, okay, I'm eating crow on this one, no big deal, I admit it. But I try to look at everything. So, okay, it's not a kangaroo. Then it's definitely from Montauk Research Center. it's floated across from the New York area, some biological chemical weapon animal thing. He says the front arms are too big and the hind legs are small. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you think that, yeah, I just think whatever it is, it's bloated. It could have been a small one. I didn't know. That's why I was asking. But thank you for letting us know. That's true, right, Dave?
Yeah, he's quite right. There's things about it that, to me, it does look to be some sort of marsupial, possibly. But who knows? I mean, I couldn't really see it that clearly on my screen here.
Yeah, and I lost it. I think it closed out. Darn it.
The head looked pretty horrendous. I mean, it could be something
alien. That looked no, that was just the skull. Like the face had been eaten off of it.
Yeah.
So but it had that long snout, so that's why I thought maybe possibly a drowned marsupial. And then looking up news going on over in Australia. It's mostly the flooding. So
we've got that. We've got nurses are on strike today in New South Wales. We've also had rail strikes as well. So industrial action. and they complain. A lot of the workers are saying that they're understaffed. Well, there's reasons for that, but they cut that out of the news. They'll just tell you basically, oh, we're understaffed. They won't actually cover why they're understaffed, because it includes things that maybe they could have avoided had they chosen to
make another choice. Yes, and
yeah.
that's the BS they're doing here too. And the dude in charge even said that. He was like, everything's strong. We have more jobs than ever before. Well, it's because you got rid of 3/4 of them, if not all of them, at certain places. And then it's like at the facilities that you go for a cough, let's say, all those poor people, they're like, we're understaffed. I wonder why.
Exactly. Yes, that's the problem here too.
So willful ignorance and stupidity isn't just restricted to the United States.
Oh, certainly not. Certainly not.
Oh my gosh, Dave, I'm Jesus is coming. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you guys have actually leaders. We've got them too, but that have been mentioning the 3-letter movement. You know, the NWO. Got to mess with the algorithms. And it's as plain as day now. You know, they tried to, I think, back in the 90s, when people like us were exposing it and bringing it to light, what do? They went to the guy at WCW and said, hey, let's start a team called the NWO. And then everybody had a shirt on with that logo. Did you ever know
that? Yeah.
The more you know. And so, but some of your leaders, I've watched videos, I've had news clips, I've TikToked them and everything, where they mention that, and they're like, it's it's just the way it is. It's the new da 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 da. I mean, we've had a Bush, he said it years ago, so we hear it. But how does it feel as an Australian that that's what your leaders are talking about? Or are they still in power? Or did you? I know some of them got the boot. I just don't know which ones.
Oh, yes. Gladys Berejiklian, she was our state premier or governor, state premier. She got the boot, and yeah, it was for what I think is relatively minor things. I think there's a lot more in the background that hasn't been discussed, and I think she was conveniently taken off the scene. They've now brought in another state premier who seems to be a nice family man, but I can't say too much, but I've heard things about these people that maybe indicates they're not exactly as they're portrayed to us. I mean, our Prime Minister is a conservative Christian, and I'm not quite, from what I've heard, he may not be quite what he's not
walking the talk.
Maybe not. Well, on the surface he does, but maybe he's not what he's presented to be. I mean, I've been digging pretty deep into this stuff for a long while, so much so that I actually was approached recently to do a bit of casual work for a contractor to none other than the US government, believe it or not. I had to sign an NDA, so I can't say much about it, but it was doing some pretty basic sort of research work from our perspective here in Australia. Apparently this sort of thing is being done around the world. And they said they did a thorough check in me. So I know I think it's the NSA did a check on me.
I just take it as they watch and listen to everything this little podcaster does. And I'm okay with it because at least somebody cares. somebody gives a shit, wants to.
It was good.
Someone wants to get to know me. Someone.
It was good though. Apparently my name was put forward by someone I met when I was over in California.
Mhm.
So I did that. It was only casual work for a few months, but interesting. One thing I was told by my mentor was, right, we came to, I think it was February. I think it was in February. It's like, oh, yep, we don't need your work anymore. Thank you. You've done a great job. And I said, oh, right. And they said, well, basically, I said, why? I said, have I done something wrong? They said, oh, no, you've done a good job. But we've got everything. We've got everything we need, right? So we're going to go ahead now. We're about to move into a new phase. I was told that March was going to be a big month, and it has been. There's been big disclosures, not to the extent I hoped for, but I was then told April. So as we move into April, that's when a lot of this is going to come out. I believe we're in the middle of a deep state takedown, and I think the bad guys are doing what they can to defend themselves and to distract from the truth coming out. And they're using every weapon in the arsenal to do so. And I think that's what we're experiencing at the moment. So I don't think anything is what you see, as it seems, even at the Oscars. I mean, okay,
We could talk.
It was genuine,
Yeah, we could talk about that on the Patreon, because it's just a little freer over there.
Yeah. That's why I don't want to talk about specifics.
It's hard. It's hard here in the public eye.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. Tap dance around shit. It sucks.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Let's see. Oh, I can't read it. I got to put these up here. So, Terry says, people worldwide are waking up. It's going to be interesting. It is.
It is very, yeah.
Jeff says, Vince McMahon of the wrestling, didn't he go to school with Trump, or was his best mates? Oh, I'm pretty sure they're friends. Yeah, even the famous fight, it's all choreographed. Let's see. Smoke and mirrors, Terry says. We're being gaslit, folks. Yep. So, where do you think's gonna? I mean, everybody's got their ideas, and a lot of us kind of have hit the one on the nails, or hit the nail on the head. Can't talk tonight. What do you think's going to be the next move, or the next distraction?
Well, next distraction. Well, as Trump mentioned, keep your eyes on Taiwan. Maybe they're going to try and pull the alien invasion card. Hopefully not.
I just be ready, because I've been waiting for that shoe to drop for so long. I'm at the point where I'm like, come on, show me. I want the light show. Let's do it now.
I don't think it would work personally, because I think there's too many people are waking up at the moment. I think it's more likely to be the white hats. I think a number of things are all going to come together at the moment. All around the integrity around that, around indictments being opened up. I believe a lot of information is going to come out about the C and the J and all these things. But I think it's been very, very carefully coordinated that all of this is going to hit together. I still believe that April is going to be a huge month.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's interesting every month. It's just it's not boring. That's for sure.
No. I reckon we're watching a movie. Boring. It's like a big movie.
It is.
Doc.
It's or is it? Are we living in like a Truman movie right now? I mean, who knows? There's so many things that got everybody questioning things. I mean, like the shape of the planet and other wild stuff. It's crazy. If I could do Christopher Walken right now, I'd be like, it's crazy. It's kooky. It's crazy. But every day I just wake up going, what is going to happen today?
Well, I planned to write another novel, a contemporary science fiction novel.
Nice.
I started writing it. I even got through about 8 chapters, and it was going really well. But when the sea hit, I felt really distracted. And what I found is there is so much going on that reality is actually stranger than fiction at the moment. So I'm finding it really hard to to sit down and write another fiction, a science fiction story.
Right.
Even though I've actually got 2 on the go about the same subject. I started both, and they're both in abeyance. I've got probably about 7 or 8 short stories come into my mind, and I've put them down. I've made notes about them. But to actually sit down and even plan the novels or even start the novels, I'm finding it really difficult because there is so much else I want to catch up on every day. Something new is happening every day. And I've got my regular sources that I follow, including you. And so by the time I get through doing that and then manage to get to do some exercise, it's time to make dinner. And it's like, yeah, I'm not getting down to writing. And I probably will at some stage, but I don't know when.
Oh, I've been trying to write my book because everybody's like, you need to write your life story. I mean, I'm still working on what the title's going to be, so I haven't even done a page yet, but it's in my head. Let me ask you, since you like doing sci-fi, do you think sci-fi should just be recategorized as prophecy books? Because eventually, most of I mean, I don't know. Maybe the really fantasy stuff, the sci-fi fantasy stuff. I don't know. Maybe that stuff's going on other planets, and all of our planets are actually occupied, and we were just told they're not. Things that make you go, hmm.
Yeah, well, if you look at a lot of movies, V for Victory and many other movies that have come out, there's so much disclosure in those movies. Other ones are distractions, like Men in Black is clearly a distraction to make us think that it's just a government department protecting the Earth. Well, we know that's probably maybe not the case.
Right.
When I was writing my own novel, it went its own direction. A lot of stuff came out that I never expected. I thought, where's all this coming from? And I just felt like certain things needed to be added to it, and a lot of it was spiritual stuff, and a lot of it was, I feel it was predictive. Mine was written on a galactic level, on a galactic scale, and my characters in it were reincarnations of former alien entities, and they had a galactic mission, and it was to save the galaxy. Well, from what I understand, there are star seeds on this planet right now who are here with a mission. I'd say we incarnated here for a specific purpose. I mean, I've done past life regressions. I've seen some of my past lives, and I've always felt, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been interested in science fiction, but I've always known something huge was going to happen in my lifetime. I knew I was here, born in 1960, for a specific event that was going to come up. And I've been
historical event,
well, I knew that something momentous was going to happen. So I've actually, you might laugh at this, but I used to watch the mainstream media. I used to turn on the news every night at 6 o'clock and think, something big's going to show, something big's going to show. Nothing did. It was just about violence and crime and money and people struggling, and there was never any real news in it. It was just lame, like really lame. So that's one of the reasons. In the end, I mean, I started going to conferences. I went to the Nexus conference here in Sydney 20 years ago. I met Kathy O'Brien and her former husband, her late husband, I should say. And that event really red-pilled me. They were saying things that I had never heard before and really shocked me. So I bought her book, and I can tell you, after reading Transformation of America, I was traumatized for a good month after reading that book. It absolutely shocked me. A lot of what she said supported a lot of the stuff that David Icke talks about. And I used to think, I like David Icke. I mean, there's some good stuff he talked about, but other stuff seemed to be, when you get into the reptilian stuff and everything, and yeah, I thought, yeah, he's way out there, and I thought maybe he's deluded, but she supported literally everything he'd said. I met her personally. I remember going up, giving her a big hug, and talking to her husband, Mark Phillips, and yeah, I've come away from that, and I've never been the same since. So I then bought Nexus magazine for about every 2 months it comes out, and what I found in Nexus magazine, they will have articles that seem to be crazy, never heard about. The things in them, they're talking about water shortages and all sorts of conspiracies and things. All of these things they talk about, within a couple of years or within 10 years, they start coming out in other media sources. So most of the articles I've been reading in that magazine have come true over the years. Now,
Right.
where there was only a few kooky people like me talking about it, now there's millions of people around the world talking about it. And yeah, this is the Great Awakening. I'm part of it and proud to be part of it.
Yeah, I believe everybody that's here, whether they know it or not, chose to be here on Earth at this time,
Oh,
because it is
absolutely.
going to be the awakening or the rapture, whatever you want to call it. And part of me is really excited that I'm going to be a part of that. Another part of me is scared shitless, all that because of what we've heard, what will come that's been
Yeah.
prophesied, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Um, yeah, but we could go in on that even in more detail in the bottom of the hour. But we're
I
coming up
will
to
tell you. Can I just tell you one thing, Doc, just before I forget, just to
yeah,
share it with the
and show your
audience
book.
here?
Show your book again because someone
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think asked.
yeah. Yeah, well, my mentor, we call him my mentor over in the US. We used to talk about once a week for about half an hour. So when my services were finally ended with them, she said, your real work is about to begin. So I said, well, what do you mean by that? She says, what you need to do now is keep a high vibration. Follow all the high vibration stuff. You need to maintain that vibration, share it with other people, raise their level of vibration. It's really, really important. She said, you're going to see some very scary things over the next few months and even a couple of years. She says, but don't let them phase you. Don't let them phase other people. She said, share with people what you know. Share with people that we've got a very bright future, and we talk about the Star Trek future.
Mhm.
There's some great technologies coming through. I believe that the old guard, we'll call them the old guard, are being removed. The new guard are coming in. We have a completely new system that will be coming in. And she says, so just share, keep up your vibration. And your job is to help other people, not to wake them up. She says, you've done that. You've been working for years to try and help wake people up. She said, it's not your job to do that anymore. It's your job to support those who already know what's happening, help them and help the people who are waking up, not to wake people up, but help the people that need the help, and they will
Right.
over the next few months. She also said no one is leaving the earth plane at the moment who has not chosen to leave the earth plane. So just don't get too hooked up in people that are passing away. She said if they are, then it's part of their choice. So yeah, and that's what I'm doing. So that's the
Yeah.
message that I was asked to pass on to people. I
Wow.
couldn't finish this without saying that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have you on Patreon here at the bottom of the hour. For those that just came on, go to patreon.com/Doc Skinner. Become a Patreon member, help support this show, and you get to see the nitty gritty we can't do publicly.
And I'll show
So,
this again.
yes, there's his book, The Tor Legacy, and we can talk about that too on the next one. And want to say thank you to everybody that joined us tonight, especially in the chat room. Renee, Paul, let's see, Sean, Terry, Jeff, Renee, Mr. B from Australia, Jeff from Australia. see. Make sure I got everybody. Terry, Jeff, Vernon came in, and there he is. So yes, thank you all so much. Now, for those, when you join Patreon, expand the video, and you can get in the chat room that way, and I'll go over it with you guys on over there on Patreon. So I just want to say thanks for Dave joining me here on the public show here on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Appreciate it. We're gonna have him back again. You can count on that. And remember, as long as we all lift each other up, we will all rise together. My name is Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah, and this is Doc Force.
See you, folks.
Yes, we'll see you all tomorrow, and yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Every day's a new adventure. So, all right, Dave, hold on just a minute, and I'm going to hit the end broadcast button.
Will do.
And then,
Thanks, Doc.
see, and now I really